What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Jack Ramsays Live. Danny Marang, Brandon Sprague. Like, rate, review, subscribe. Help us grow the show. We are going to abandon mostly Blazers-related news because, well, they've lost 6 games in a row by an NBA record margin of defeat. And there's not a whole lot to take from that of the, as Sithafong here says in the chat, right away he parks his tank. Yeah, everybody pull up your tank like a drive-in movie theater. Make sure you turn to... what is it? I guess the sell here is turn your radios to AM 1080.
Well, look, I actually disagree with you a little bit.
Oh.
We don't have to dive into the ins and outs of the roster and the team itself.
Oh, okay.
I just want to take a minute to embrace Joe Cronin for being the polar opposite of Neil Olshey and being the best in the NBA at it. I mean,
fair.
We may not be the best team, but man, we are good at being the best worst team. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, they are excelling. They are excelling at tanking, a legit elite tank festival, tank fiesta. As Brandon and I are both wearing our Major League Baseball hats, his Diabolical Braves and the illustrious St. Louis Cardinals.
Welcome back, boys.
Welcome back, baseball.
There we go.
This is Joe Cronin stepping up to the plate and taking a big old rip. That's what this is. I don't know if he's gonna, if we're talking Barry Bonds, getting on base no matter what, or if we're going swing and miss, high strikeout rate, to get all my my baseball euphemisms tied in here. But I think that's kind of where we're sitting right now. I guess we should at least start the show with at least some quasi-Blazer related news. Brandon Ingram's down for 10 days. We knew that last night. CJ McCollum has entered health and safety protocols.
Yeah.
So
unfortunately, the Lakers are awful. So they're still going to make this play-in game unless the Spurs randomly catch some fire. It's good news from a draft perspective. I still think if New Orleans can get BI healthy, if CJ's healthy, matchups are kind of everything. I don't think it's impossible for them to make playoffs yet. Whereas like a few weeks ago when they first got CJ, they started, I think, 0 for 4. I kind of thought, okay, all right, we're going to get that pick. And now I'm kind of still up in the air about it because they played so well before BI got hurt.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see how all of these things take place. And it's very Pelicans-esque in the sense of like, stuff just doesn't go right for them.
Right.
And it's going to be interesting to see kind of like which direction this thing goes. I'll tell you right now, I'm sitting here watching Twitter, and I've got the 76ers game on the other screen. And Dr. J rang the bell, and the 76ers are treating this like the bleeping NBA Finals.
Mm-hmm.
They hate this man. They hate Ben Simmons.
Yes.
Which is funny because he got you James Harden.
He did, and I think the crowd's kind of having some fun. I thought there were going to be louder boos when he came out, and I was surprised. Like, you could hear the boo, but it wasn't Philly-esque type boo.
No, it wasn't even like LaMarcus coming home from Portland for the first time boos.
No, that was a loud boo.
Wow.
I was in attendance for that. Don't put it past him though to show him on the jumbotron at one point.
Oh, in arena, they're 100% going to do that.
Just for the one time of really hearing the boos. I think the other part of this matchup too, one, this could be a playoff matchup in the first freaking round, which speaks to the volume of the East. And then also, you seeing James Harden's face right now? Like, I think he genuinely hates that team.
Oh, God, yeah. I mean, we saw that with Steve Nash when they asked him if he was going to say anything to James Harden. He says, I don't think we'll speak.
No, I don't think we'll speak. That tells you all you need to know.
I mean, that was an "as the world turns" quote, man. I was caught off guard by that. I knew that relationship was like frosty, but I didn't know it was like that bad.
Well, one, Nash is an MVP who understands what it takes to do what you can for a team.
Get everybody on board, yeah.
Yeah, Harden abandoned that pretty quickly like he did in Houston at the end. But also KD had some stuff. Like, they're supposed to be friends, and KD was kind of like, we're supposed to win championships here. Like, I was out. Like, you ain't even won a championship, and you couldn't handle the grind, which I found it very interesting for KD, of all people, to be saying. But I think it just speaks to the matchup. You've got two teams that hate certain people on these teams, which makes this a playoff game.
So it's gonna be fun. We'll have that kind of going on the side. Bleak asked Danny, can you give us the best Olshey spin word vomit for the current tank? Because it's definitely not the roster. God, what would be an Olsheyism?
Like if Olshey was in the situation and the team was this bad, like how would he spin it?
I think the way they would do it, I would imagine, because he loves buzzwords, I think pivot. Pivot would be his word.
I would think it'd be like reassessing or reevaluating.
Reevaluating expectations and having a pivot in our back pocket if something comes down the road.
Yes. While, by the way,
bifurcating,
we get to develop this young crop of talent.
Yes.
Ant is garnered serious minutes and run here to the point where we feel confident about what that future is. Like, it's really easy to do the Neil O'Shea spin job out of this absolute.
When you've got 10 years of him doing the exact same thing over and over and over again, you can pretty much thread that needle.
Yeah.
But a lot of stuff that we want to talk about is today, after we spent the first 5 minutes talking about Blazers-related stuff, is not necessarily Blazers-related stuff per se. I mean, it is because this is the guys who Blazers are targeting. But questions about the NBA draft, NCAA tournament, that kind of stuff. And a bunch of you got questions in a little bit ago, so let me pull those up. Where'd it go? There we go. Got a bunch of questions in here. James at James Huntley 27. Can't wait. Can you discuss Chet and how he might stack up against the size and strength of the NBA competitors? Do you think he goes number one? Also, who do you think will be surprised will go earlier than most mock drafts suggest? All right, let me pull up my latest, The Athletic, because Sam Vecini dropped his latest mock draft last night. Where did it go?
By the way, I cannot get Sam Vecini to text me back. I don't know what happened. I don't know why I pissed him off.
What did you do to Sam?
Oh, nothing. We had him on the show. He had a great mock draft. He responded. Yeah, hit me up. Had a good interview, I thought. Dude, I can't get the guy to respond to me anymore.
Well, he is in Australia, so.
He's in Australia?
Uh-huh. He's in Melbourne.
What's their time difference?
Technically a day ahead of us, but 7 hours behind us.
So like when it's night here, it's
5 hours. No, it's 5 hours. So because it's at noon. Noon here is 7 in the morning there because our headquarters is in Australia for my day job.
Because Vietnam is I think Vietnam was 12 or 13.
Mm-hmm.
So like on a Tuesday morning, I would still be seeing the live updates on Monday Night Football. It was always kind of crazy. So if that's the case, I'm probably texting him at the worst possible time.
Yes.
That's cool. All right. Good to know. What's the mock say?
All right. So I pulled this up to kind of go off of James's question here. Currently, Chet Holmgren is still number one in Sam's mock board. Jabari Smith, Jaden Ivey, number 3. Paolo, number 4. Shaedon Sharpe, number 5.
Yep.
All right. So this is the notes around, and what my resident Australian from SB Nation who's watching just texted me and said, yes, 5 hours ahead. But this is the notes of the first paragraph that Sam has on Chet. The conversation regarding Holmgren's frame is already getting tiring as more and more people start tuning into college basketball with March Madness heating up. I get it. He's skinny and he looks like a stiff breeze could blow him over. By the way, those conversations aren't just happening in the public sphere. High-level NBA executives who are just starting to attend games more and focus on scouting college hoops as opposed to the trade deadline or their own team's battles with COVID-19 are similarly debating Holmgren's rare frame and game. It's because we haven't seen anything like this before. The term unicorn was often overused in the late 2010s as people searched for 7-foot rim protectors who could shoot. But Holmgren is genuinely something that hasn't really entered the NBA. New NBA players whom NBA executives can't fit tightly into their little archetypical box often get questioned this way. Okay, what does that sound like, Brandon? Does that sound like the exact same thing that we talked about last night?
Yes, it did.
Literally what we were talking about. The looking to find something wrong, and where does he fit? And that's, I think, when you're trying, in the context of things, building things around him and more likely to slot him in, you do have to make some concessions in how he plays and in your team structure. That is not inherently a bad thing. And I think that's what people think, that is a bad thing. Here's a perfect example of the flip side of why it's not a bad thing. Damian Lillard has to have the right team around him to maximize him. Does that make Damian Lillard a bad player?
No.
Here's the thing. You can only have so many guys on your team that you have to make room for or make concessions for. And here's where I think Chet and Dame being paired together, there's not a situation where they mesh perfectly, nor is there a situation where they're diametric opposites, and it's just not going to work, right?
Right. I was wondering with Chet today because I was reading some stuff on him. I was thinking, like, is there any team in the top 3 or 4 that doesn't need him?
No.
Okay.
Detroit absolutely needs a real big. Like Beef Stew is a backup big.
Right. And we know Grant's going to be going, so they're going to lose a little athleticism and some length. And you're right there. Oklahoma City, I mean, they're in a place where I think need to take
they'll take anything, but they do already have one of those kind of players in Poku. Would they maybe lean towards a Jabari Smith that makes more sense, like to pair with SGA right out of the gate?
Houston is an interesting one to me. I could see the fit there. I could also see them talking themselves in a different direction.
Like Sengun's fun, but like
right. In Orlando, I mean,
they did ink Wendell Carter Jr. Mm-hmm. I'm still trying to get a feel for what they're going to do with Mo Bamba.
Yep.
I genuinely believe Portland might try to chase him with their MLE.
Okay.
I do think that is a way that they will look.
Okay.
Because that will allow them to play a certain way that they cannot play with Jusuf Nurkic.
And I think if you were to go that direction for Orlando, I would get it move-wise because, he's supposed to be a talent. I think what you worry about and what you're kind of reading from Sam's article is teams are going to wonder themselves, and some teams will conclude it before the draft happens, whether he can really play the 5 for your team. Like if it's him and Wendell Carter, how are you going to do in that situation? You could be okay, or he could get absolutely bodied out of the paint and he kind of becomes an irrelevant 7-footer at that point.
And that's the thing is I think in his first couple years in the NBA, he is going to be a 4. This is going to be the Zach Collins experiment where you're shoehorning a 5 into a 4.
Right.
But he's not ready to play the 5. The difference is Zach was a 5 who was just being a 4. Like he was a backup 5. That's just kind of where it goes. Slugworth says we aren't going to be top 4 in the comments here. There's going to be probably about a 50% chance that they end up top 4. It's going to end up right around there, 40 to 50%.
Well, okay, but my response to Slugworth is like, so what does that matter? This draft might be 5 or 6 deep. Like I think it's weird how, like, I remember when this draft class specifically, I remember reading about it and they were like, oh, it's 2 deep. And then it was like, they're 3 deep. And now
as we get closer to the draft, you're like, it's 5 deep.
Ivy, Mathurin, Sharpe. Who am I missing here? It feels like you're 5 or 6 at this point. And if that's where you end up picking, we're still talking AJ Griffin. Like we're still talking about good players and players that may not be like superstars, but players that could actually fit in pretty well with a team in Portland's position, a playoff type team with Dame, with Ant coming back. You'll have Nurkic, Nas will be healthy. And you know what? If you can go make a couple moves, if you could go get Mo Bamba, if that's even real, I still convinced they're going to go Nurkic.
Oh, I think they're gonna bring back Nurk. But they're going to use his bird rights. I think they're going to chase a Bamba type.
Oh, okay.
With the MLE for the backup spot.
Then that's good. But like you'd have that. You throwing a rookie into that situation, that's a good spot for a rookie to be in because they're not going to be asked to carry the workload. And on nights they step above, like you're probably going to have one of your other guys I just mentioned have an off night. So it's going to come in handy. So, I know it seems like it's a really top 3, top 2 heavy draft right now, maybe to a lot of people. But I think as time has gone on, we've seen throughout this college basketball season, it's slowly becoming 4, 5, maybe 6 players deep. And Portland's putting themselves in that position right now.
The question originally that James asked was how he might stack up against size and strength of NBA competitors. Night in, night out at the 5, he won't. He won't. He's just not. He's not ready for that. Night in, night out as a 4, as a helper. I think he's fine.
Yeah,
I genuinely do, and I think he can actually take some minutes as a backup 5. But here's the thing: when you look at Chet, I don't think that he's going to make the impact that, like, say, an Evan Mobley is right now. Which, to be fair, almost no big makes the impact that Evan Mobley has made this year.
I was going to say that's kind of a fair name to be throwing out there of like, hey, one of the best young bigs we've ever seen in league history. Chet's not going to be that. I think that's okay to say.
Yes, but I think that there's some people who really like him who see him in that way. And then there's the interesting thing about Chet is there's nobody who's on the fence with him. You either love him or you hate him. which is weird because I find myself pretty squarely in the middle.
I can't say hate though. Like I'm out on them. Like if it was my pick,
mm-hmm.
and I'm saying this in like the most stupid sports fan way, not being a general manager in the NBA, but like I would lean no. I don't hate him.
Mm-hmm.
If Portland's in a position where it goes, Smith, Banchero, Ivy, somebody sneaks into that top two.
Mm-hmm.
And Portland's on the clock and Chet's there. Again, I'm not the biggest fan, but like we'll do the podcast and I'll tell you, like, I get it. I know why Joe did this. And you just hope that he becomes some dream four that can carry over from college what he did so well.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing just to kind of see how it pans out and like who goes where. Does a team go need based? Like hey, Marvin Bagley.
Oh, yeah. Well,
I mean, is there going to be a team in there that reaches for a guy they really like as opposed to taking best player available? Or does somebody have a player evaluated significantly higher than another? And as of
how
right
many
now,
years did Philly do that in the process years?
They got a bunch of this right, but then Hinkie leaves, the brain trust leaves, and all of a sudden they're drafting Ja Okafor.
Right.
And you're like, ooh.
Yeah.
Or you're swapping picks so you can get Markelle Fultz and not take Jason Tatum.
Yeah, right. Who would want Jason Tatum with Joel Embiid and Ben Simmons?
Yikes.
A 6'10" point guard and a 6'8" wing paired with a 7-foot skilled big who's got the footwork of Olajuwon.
You could have you and me at the 1 and 2 and they'd still win 50 games.
Yes, easily.
It's just
easily.
It's kind of dumb, but there's a lot of questions around Chet, and I think that when you look at it, it's interesting to see how it's going to go. But as of right now, I do believe Chet is number one. All of the talent evaluators I have talked to have all placed him at number one so far.
That's good.
Most guys are sitting there going, listen, if Jabari has an NCAA tournament, like it's very easy for him to go. Boop.
I hate that.
I understand.
97%, 98, 99% of your season was played, and because you may have
and
one
Zach
or
Collins
two
got
good
himself
games,
a lottery pick because of two
right.
basketball games.
Because they went to the championship and he was their sixth man. You're not wrong there. I just
saying, like,
I just hate that.
I do too. Hey, it's recency bias.
It absolutely is recency bias, and it's not fair to the sample size.
No, it's not. But again, I think that I personally would take Jabari over Chet, even if you believe Chet is the better prospect in the long term. Because here's the question: best player available, I think, can have a couple different paths that you go down, in the sense of like best player available right now or best player available in the long run, or most likely to be the best player or reach their ceiling.
Right.
And I think those are three different things you're talking about, because the more I talk to people, the more Chet may be the best prospect or have the most unicorn potential, whatever. Jabari's significantly more ready to play and insert day one than Chet is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I think it's fair. We have a really good example of maybe how we should view this draft through a certain lens. And I think the example this year is Zion. It's total revisionist for any one person to go back and try to preach that Ja's better than Zion. You could have liked Ja a lot.
Go back and read the tweets.
Well, look, you're a sick man who, once he gets an opinion, he has to go like all as deep as he can. Like he has to go as Skip Bayless on that opinion as he can and be like, I was here first.
Damn right.
But it's not revisionist to say Zion was the consensus number one, right? When we evaluated that draft, it was Zion. And you heard almost as much, if not more, noise about RJ as you did Ja.
Yeah. Well, RJ was the pedigree guy. He was the Nike guy. He was the Duke guy.
Yep. He was everything an NBA team is looking for, right? A 6'7", 6'8" wing who's athletic.
And he had all the hype behind him coming out at the Hoop Summit and all that stuff.
Yep.
So were you at Hoop Summit that year?
I went to Hoop Summits, but I didn't go as media. Okay. I always bought tickets.
Okay. So during the Hoop Summit practices, RJ was there with the international team, obviously being a Canadian. And the scouts were oohing and awing. Oh, he retooled his jumper. It was just like, oh, Jesus Christ, here we go.
Yeah.
I rolled my eyes a dozen times, and they're like, "Oh no, he's gonna be the guy over Zion. He's gonna like." They just kept convincing themselves of this over and over and over and over again. And it was just like Zion was there with a cast on because he had a broken hand, I think, at the time, and I was like, "Okay."
Wasn't he the higher prospect than
yes.
Zion? That's right, because Zion was in a small school.
It wasn't going to
to
make an impact. It wasn't going
Right.
to transfer. And I'm sitting there watching this 6'6", 275-pound, 17-year-old with 38-inch vertical. Put everybody in the rim on all the tape leading up to it. I'm like, sure, no, RJ's going to be the guy. Sure. It's one of those things.
Because you have Zion out right now dealing with his injury and his rehab. You've got RJ not really. He's been fine. I think he's a good role player in the NBA.
He's a solid player. I don't know if like he's shown flashes of brilliance like he had the other night. He had a monster game, and it's just. But is that who he is, or is he just kind of more of a guy who stumbles into those more often than not?
I don't see it consistently enough. But I think overall my point is go back to even that draft, highly anticipated one, and Ja gets taken 2, and we're like, okay, yeah, they need a point guard. That makes sense. Yeah. He has taken off this year, and he's in an MVP race. He won't win it, but he's right there.
He's likely a top 10 player in the NBA right now.
There could be that in this draft. That's there could be a variant in that group that's like, hey, we're not looking at Mathurin the way that maybe we should. Or AJ Griffin is 19 years old and he's 6'6". Yeah. Holy crap! The ceiling for him could be so much bigger than we think. Teams tend to fall in love with a guy, and that guy doesn't always become that guy from the draft. So. Bear that in mind through the process as well.
All right, this question is from Slater Smith. At Slater Smith, do we see the Blazers trying to consolidate picks to trade up if both land below, let's say 8? Do other teams bite, and would it be worth it? That's a really good question.
I think you would be better off trying to package that Pelican pick, assuming you have it, and trying to get an asset. And then I think you see if you can move up. But if you can't,
then maybe you move. So this is where I would go with this. If let's say they get 8 and 9. They stay, they get bumped down with one and the other one stays where it's at. I think the Pelicans pick is gone no matter what. I think that's going out.
That's getting traded.
Yes. That is getting traded.
Yeah.
I just, all of the tea leaves point to that.
Sure.
The Portland pick, though, tie that to Josh Hart.
Mm-hmm.
Is that enough to get you from 8 to 5? Kevin Pelton has a sliding scale for what is expected values in a given draft based on draft pick history and research and recency and kind of like what it costs to get there.
Right.
It's interesting to see where that line is this year, like where the fall off is, because I'll go to Sam's mock here. Chet, Jabari, Jaden, Paolo, Shaedon Sharpe, if he does declare, which does sound like it's going to happen, is his grouping 6 through 10. And this is interesting. AJ Griffin 6, Keegan Murray 7. Jalen Duren from Memphis at 8, Johnny Davis 9, Dyson Daniels moving up to 10 on his board, which I found to be interesting. So if you're in that range, do you need to go up to 5? Or do you look at an AJ Griffin or Keegan Murray and maybe go up 1 pick?
Well, that's kind of what I'm saying here is we teams make dumb decisions, right? That's the other part of this. Like, well, but it needs to be said.
It does.
Anthony Bennett 1. We think Orlando's going to make the smart pick at 1, and then boom, they're like, we're taking Jaden Ivey, and everybody's like, what? Right? That would change everything. Like there would be GMs going,
something may happen behind the scenes where you get a Eli Manning and a player says, I am not playing there.
Sure, no doubt about it. Remind me in the 2017 draft, who was picked after Zach Collins at 10?
Which one?
John, Bam, Donovan, OG. I mean, maybe I'm missing one more, but like those 4 dudes weren't even in the top 10 of that draft. And they're the 4 best players from that draft. So it's just, they could be in that 8 range. And I get it. It doesn't look pretty today because you're seeing top 3, top 4, top 5. But that list is growing a little bit, guys. And there might be a really good fit for this Portland team that ends up falling to you at 8 because, again, the NBA has dumb teams in it.
So, and again, but could I see them in a position where they really like somebody and they want to move up? Yes.
Sure.
I can see that. Johnny says, unless you're in love with Paolo or Sharpe at 5, I don't see why you'd give up assets to move from 8 to 5. What if somebody in that group falls all the way down?
Mm-hmm.
Or the guy that they have on their board they evaluated has fallen down. I will tell you guys this. I've talked about it before. Nassir Little's draft.
I was just going to mention Nas is a great example of this.
Cam Johnson was the Blazers' pick going into that is who they wanted going into that draft where they were at.
Yes. They thought he was going to fall to them perfectly. And I still remember, because I didn't read any stuff that day or the couple days before, I was floored that Nassir Little fell. I'm like,
they had Nas mocked, I think 12th is where they had him mocked.
Yep.
And
he went because he thought he was going to be a top 10 pick.
And then he fell, and then he fell some more, and he fell some more. And the Blazers, after Cam Johnson went, they were like, shit. And they were scrambling. And then their next move, they were going to take Dylan Windler. Dylan Windler was Neil O'Shea's pick that night. Yeah. When they were getting ready to pick, and then because they thought Nas was going before.
Right.
They're like, there's no way he's going to make it to us. Then Nas dropped, and then whop, they scooped him up.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, which turned out to be probably a fair move because Dylan Windler played like 16 healthy games of basketball.
I was going to say Dylan Windler's not bad, but he doesn't play.
He's just the guy is snake bitten, and the Blazers could. I mean, to be fair, Nas has had his
he's had a little run here too, yeah.
But he's been better off than poor Dylan. But it's you never know who, where. Like 2-3 guys you can usually figure out, and then beyond that, you kind of just roll with it.
Mm-hmm.
Josh Bullock at Jabasby asks, how do I know what to look for when watching college games? I know I am going to watch college games differently than most other people are going to. I will have some action on the side, so to speak. However, when I'm going in to watch prospects, I don't care what else is going on the floor. When I go watch an Auburn game, my eyes are gonna be fixated on Jabari Smith. What is he doing? How is he doing it? Where are guys getting in the ball? What is he doing defensively? Where is he? Who are his matchups? What are kind of the concepts they're looking for? What are they trying to accomplish? Is he settling for shots? Is he being aggressive? What are his weaknesses? What are his strengths? Those are the things that I'm going to watch for. Like, I've watched Jabari a ton already this year. How does he react when the pressure's turned on? Duke today, good God.
Oh, man. How about that? And then Coach K, suddenly the team has food poisoning?
Ooh, doggy.
Really? I'm picking against them. I think they're going to lose. They're not going to get out of their region.
Again, Sam has had Paolo knocked back a couple spots.
Yeah.
When we talked about this last night. Dog.
Yep.
Again, this is where I think you give credit to the Zach Collinses of the world. When the pressure comes on, do you have some dog in you? Because Joe Cronin and his staff, they're looking for that. So I think a competitive edge. I think that's something to watch for on top of the to quote CJ McCollum here, the skills and drills.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's hard to put into X's and O's for me. It's really like, do you pop? If I know you're on the floor, are you popping to me? Are you making the plays? Are you looking like you know what's coming? Like, I remember watching Virginia, and the dude who popped to me was DeAndre Hunter, right? Kyle Guy was a really good player. Ty Jerome was their senior point guard, and they don't win it without those guys. Mm-hmm. But, like, watching them, DeAndre Hunter was he
stood out.
He stood out, and you can see that a lot when we're talking about these guys. Maybe Paolo doesn't do it for people in the tournament, and that'll be interesting too, because if he caves and they don't get out of their own region as a 1 seed, yikes. But it's for me, it's just seeing, like, does that guy pop off the screen? And you can see it when you watch college.
I'm going to skip a couple here because I really want to make sure we get to this question because I know we got to get you on a hard out here. This is from Johnny at PNW Sports 503. Of your top 8, which prospects are most likely to overcome their weaknesses to become blank, a star, high-end role player, etc.? And I thought that was a really interesting way to talk about prospects. And this is, again, we kind of highlighted this, the different paths you can take earlier on. I think this is really important. I think Jabari is probably the safest player in this draft as far as turning into a high-end player. I don't think anybody's really going to argue that because he's a two-way guy already that you don't worry about his shooting. My spiel on prospects in general. Do you have an NBA-ready skill that can contribute immediately? How do you get on the floor? because that was always the thing that I've harped on over and over and over again. Anfernee Simons, I knew he could get his shot off, and I knew he could shoot. That gets him on the floor. Then you work on the other stuff. That's how you get paid in the NBA. Jabari Smith Jr. comes into the NBA. He can shoot. He can shoot the living hell out of the ball. He can shoot from every level. He's also 6'10", and he plays defense.
Yeah. Well, couldn't you make an argument though? Like you say he's the most and his ceiling might be the highest, but if Chet's going 1, don't teams view him that way?
Sure. But of all of his skills, how many are hard skills that get you on the floor that you can go, he shoots the hell out of the ball. He's an elite passer or creator. He just has his floor skills are just higher.
Yeah.
Because he's a good defender. He can finish around the rim. He can shoot. He can pass. He can grab and go. He can do things at the position that there's a massive shortfall in the league. Like how many guys at the 5 are at 7 foot tall are grabbing a rebound and going?
Right.
Like we see Joel do it and we're like, oh my God, that's terrifying.
Cat can do it. Joel can do it.
You talk about MVP type players.
You're talking
Jokic.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's
the list gets
when
short.
He's healthy, but it's not very many guys.
Yeah. The list gets real small real quick. And Joey says shot blocking. Here's the thing: there's plenty of shot blockers in NBA history, and now with the way the NBA is played, with how many threes there are, shot blocking I believe is a little bit devalued as a skill, whereas rebounding and shot blocking used to have like higher pedestal skills. I don't think it's rim protection is more valuable than shot blocking. But I think you can do that in different ways, and you can kind of scheme some things. But Chet, and that is one of the things that will jump off the page, is that he is able to kind of do those things and figure them out.
Right.
But in here in the top 8, let's go off Sam's list. I'll tell you this. After watching Keegan Murray the last couple weeks, talking to Eric Gunnarsson today, he was watching the game too, and we were kind of going back and forth. Like, he was like, wow, Keegan Murray's a bucket. Well, yeah, he's 21, or he will be 21 on the draft day. Mm-hmm. So he's a little bit more polished, but I think day one coming into the NBA, he's probably your second or third most ready to contribute guy.
He strikes me as a dog, too.
Yes.
Like, please don't take this to the full extreme here. It's going to be a little blasphemous. He kind of has a Bam aura to him. Mm-hmm. He's skilled. He's a little more skilled than people give him credit. What he does for Iowa, I don't know. I've liked seeing his tape. I've seen him a couple games.
I mean, this is the guy who's second in second in the Big Ten scoring this year. Like,
what's he 6? He's 6'9", right?
Yeah,
6'9", 6'10".
Let me pull up his actual vitals here. So they have him listed as 6'8" with a 6'11" wingspan.
He is definitely, to me, if you fall and your pick isn't what you want it to be, he is kind of like an insurance policy.
And he also solves an immediate issue.
Yes, he does.
He's a 4.
Yes, he does. Yeah.
Like
he's debating.
And again, he's able to do things right-handed, left-handed. He's got a post game. He's got a mid-range game. He steps out, shoots 38% from 3. Like, he competes on the defensive end. Like, again, the word you will hear me say over and over and over again as it pertains to Joe Cronin and what those guys are after: compete, 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 compete.
Well, and I don't think we should allow that Bam John Collins draft to be overlooked here. There could be a scenario because Cronin says we're taking best talent. Mm-hmm. And I think a lot of us are saying, some of these wing guys and some of these couple bigs, I wouldn't be stunned if they got Murray in a workout in Portland and he looked at him and said, he's going to fit perfectly for us. We view him just as talented as anybody else. Like, that won't surprise me. If Portland is to go that direction, it wouldn't surprise me.
I'll give you an example of where that happened. Donovan Mitchell went into his workout in Utah. They said, this is told to me by one of the big guys in Utah, and I love this. The GM at the time said, if word gets out about him, I will kill you. He threatened everybody in the organization.
And the word didn't get out, by the way, because he fell.
Nope. He fell and he fell and he fell. Because he went into that workout. We were texting back and forth, me and this beat reporter, and he goes, Donovan Mitchell's good. I go, he's Damian Lillard good. He's like, you think? And I go, yes, he's that good. I go, if he hits the way I think he's going to hit, he's going to be a 20.5 rebound, 5 assist guy. He goes, are you sure? And I'm like, mm-hmm. And then he screen capped it and sent it to me like 2 years later. He was like, God damn it, I hate it when you're right. But he went into that workout. They liked him. They liked him. When he got done, they loved him. And they were not going to they were going to do whatever it took, and they sat there and they waited. And this is the impressive thing, is they waited it out, because they could have panicked and moved up and given up more capital to move up further. And they didn't. And
never showed their hand.
They never showed their hand.
Never showed their hand.
And that's what's going to be interesting.
Yep.
Like, this is Joe Cronin's first time as the guy in the room.
Yeah.
It is one thing to make trades and to strip things down. This is the commitment that you're adding to guys. Does somebody come in and crush a workout,
right,
and you fall in love with it? Maybe you reach, or do you sit on your hands?
Right.
So I think that's really interesting. But of those top 8 prospects, like the guys that me personally, I think are most likely to pop, I like Murray a ton. I like AJ Griffin a ton. I like Jabari a ton. I think those are the guys that are most likely. If you're asking me to slide a sneaky guy in there, Johnny Davis from Wisconsin.
Oh, you think Johnny Davis is in play for him?
The only problem is he's 6'4".
That was my hang up on him. And Joe said, look, Joe said size isn't the end all be all, but I don't believe that.
Yeah. But as far as, like, again, the top 8 of the guys that I think are most likely to hit, I think Johnny Davis is going to hit.
And it's a great basketball name. We need a good Johnny Davis in this league.
You do. All right, what time we got to get you out of here?
I right now.
That's what I thought. All right, we will wrap it up right there, guys. Thank you all so very much. We appreciate it. Brandon's going to go play coach for one last time. So
last game tonight, baby. Here we go.
Yes, sir. All right.
Only Saturdays, but they're Thursday this week. Let's go.
Thank you all so very much. We appreciate you. We love you. Remember, like, rate, review, subscribe. We will catch you all later on social media at Jack Ramsays, at Danny Marang, at Brandon Sprague. Go Coach Sprague. Go the Fighting Spragues. We will catch you guys for the next game here with the pre and post. And until then, you guys have a wonderful, wonderful night. We'll talk soon.